Have you ever wondered why making more money and having more things does not guarantee happiness? Well, I'm going to break down exactly why that is and how you can use this concept to shift your life and your business and who you are. So keep listening. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we are doing our very first episode in our brand new studio. So if you are watching on YouTube or any of the other places that we put the video files, you'll see we're in a new studio. It may not look like a new studio, but we're actually in my garage. Now, one of the things that we talked about on an episode or two ago was, we did a whole episode on shutting down the office and why we did that, the lessons I learned from it, and all of that good stuff. But because of COVID, we have not been at the office for the last 6 months, and we've been operating just fine. In fact, some may argue we've been operating better virtual. And I think it brings, a lot of reasons why we talk about in that episode, but giving the employees a lot more freedom, no more commute for some of the people that had a really long commute. But anyways, in order to keep the podcast going, we built the studio in my garage. So what you're watching and seeing right now is me in the garage. We put a big wood wall in the background for those of you who can't see us or are just listening to the audio version. We built a wall for the side over here that goes in and out. And to be honest with you, I kind of like it. I really enjoy it. Although it's episode number 1 of us here, but it's just nice not having to really leave the house. You can kind of just set the podcast up, have coffee, and just kind of relax and chill and get my mind in the right place. And I definitely want my mind in the right place, especially for today's episode. I had a thought this morning, and I was kind of sitting in the silence, actually a couple days ago, sitting in the silence, and something hit me. And for those of you who don't know, if you're a Video Forexer, you obviously know how important sitting in the silence is, and I talk about it all the time. And one of the reasons why, I'll just make it quick because we talk about it a lot, but one of the reasons why we want to sit in silence is because the silence and the stillness is what churns off the chatter. It turns off the thinking mind, because the thinking mind likes to stay realistic. It likes to stay within a box. And the box is basically created from our subconscious. And when you're trying to create something outside the box, you can't do it with inside the box thinking. And so your mind can only think from a place of what it knows. And so if you're trying to create something that you don't know how to create, well, how are you supposed to think your way there? And we all have those ideas that hit us when we're journaling, right? Thinking mind's off, you're just journaling and all these ideas. You're in the shower and you get the best ideas in the shower. That's what the silence does. And so I was sitting in the silence the other day, and I started I kind of set my intention around this idea. I had this idea of, why doesn't money bring people happiness? And I started to look back and I started to reflect on a lot of the things that I have now and how grateful I am for these things nowadays, or in today, where I'm at today. And honestly, I'm to the point where I'm I'm not driven to go make millions and millions of dollars. I'm not driven to have big, huge mansions and Ferraris and Lamborghinis. Although one day I would like to own a Ferrari, at least for 6 months, just to go have fun with it. But I'm not really driven by those things. And one of the things that I've learned through the journey is just to live in extreme gratefulness. But I was really curious as to why. Why is it that material objects and money and things that we think we want don't actually bring happiness? And we see people all the time go and chase things like money, material things, bigger houses, nicer cars, all of that, fancier vacations, and all of that stuff, thinking it's going to bring them happiness, and then it doesn't. And there's a quote from Jim Carrey, and I know I'm going to mess it up, but it's something along the lines of, I wish everybody could be rich and have everything they wanted so that they realize it's not the key to happiness. And we see people all the time who, quote unquote, make it and are just unhappy. And we see people all the time who have nothing and are extremely happy all the time. And I'm a firm believer, and I'm a firm believer in two things, actually. I'm a firm believer that money and material objects and nicer stuff does not bring happiness. It doesn't guarantee happiness. Let's put that. It does not guarantee happiness. But I will say at the same time, it's a lot easier to get to that place when you do have money. Like if you're not stressed out by bills, you're not stressed out by like a lot of things you might be stressed out about. You find yourself in a spot where it is easier to find gratefulness, a lot easier to be happy and things like that, but it does not guarantee happiness. And so I was just kind of sitting there and going, why? I set my intention of what I wanted to try to gain, what kind of knowledge, ancient wisdom knowledge that I want to gain from the silence. And that was my intention, is like, why, universe, God, whatever you guys want to call it, why is it that money and material objects don't guarantee happiness? And here's what hit me. Sat in the silence and then bam, it hit me. I journaled it out. And one of the reasons why, or the main reason why money and material objects don't bring you happiness is because the lens in which you see the world doesn't shift and it doesn't change. Money and material objects and these things that you think you want, it does not change the lens in which you see the world, how you see your life. It does not change the lens in which reality is created for you. And this is really important. So if you are a parent, I really encourage you guys to pay attention and teach this concept that we're about to go over in this episode to your kids. It's something that you're probably going to want to master. And it's something as an entrepreneur, if you can take on what I'm saying today and gain a knowing of it, you put it into practice, you're consistent with it, you work at it, you try to get mastery of it, this can literally shift your life and your business. And one of the reasons why, and we'll dive a little bit more, but it allows you, when you understand this concept, it's going to allow you to be the person you need to be to get the results that you want. And so we hear Jim Fortin talk about this all the time. We hear Jim Fortin talk about be, do, have. If you want to be $1 million business owner, you need to be that person before you are that person. And what I mean by that is, what decisions does a $1 million business owner make? How does a $1 million business owner think? What do they do, right? So encompass. Well, who are they? What do they do? What do they think? What kind of actions do they take? What kind of decisions do they make? Now, what happens is when you are and you become the $1 million business owner, you start to take the actions that a $1 million business owner takes. And certain actions bring certain results. Decisions, thinking, and actions of a broke business owner give you a broke business. The decisions, the action, and thinking of a $1 million business owner give you $1 million business. Let me give you an example. When I was $40,000 in debt, I hired Taylor, even though the revenue in the company didn't make any sense. I needed all the revenue that I had just to barely even pay the bills. So hiring someone and bringing them on into the company, my mind was like, you don't have the money for this. But I asked myself, what does the $1 million business owner do? They hire the help that they know they need. And that was the decision that's propelled us forward. In that instance, a broke business owner would have thought, I'm just going to wait until I can, quote unquote, afford to hire this person. And you know what happens? Nothing changes. You're still busy all the time. You're still not bringing in the revenue. You're still doing everything yourself, and you stay broke. And I've had to do that so many times. Now, bringing it back to the topic of this episode, the lens in which you see the world. The reason why money and things like that, and material objects and all things you think you want don't bring you happiness, is because the lens in which you see the world does not shift. And here's what I mean by this. When you're struggling and you're going through hard times and you are going through all of those things, one of the things that's going to shift everything for you is how you perceive those things. And I'll give you an example here in a second. When you go into a failed launch, there's a million different ways you can look at that and perceive it. Number one is you can look at that and go like, okay, great. I got data. This was an amazing learning lesson. I'm so grateful for the fact that I got this data. So grateful for the fact that I took the step forward. And that's the lens in which you see the world. It's living in gratefulness. It's finding the beauty, the joy, the gifts that you were just given, versus the lens in which you see the world is, I can't believe that. I'm not good. I'm not worthy. I suck. I can't do this. There's two different lenses that those two people are using. Now, what starts to happen is if you choose the better lens, you look for the gifts, you look for the blessings, you look for the good things that came from, and there's always things to be grateful for. There's always things that are gifts. There's always good in every situation. And if you don't believe that, I guarantee you right now, you probably have the wrong lens. If you are unable to find the joy, the beauty, the gifts, and things to be grateful for when quote unquote things are down, you have the wrong lens. And giving yourself the right lens allows you to become the person that you need to become to move out of that. For example, if you go into a failed launch and you look for the beauty, you look for the gifts, you're grateful for the lessons, you're grateful for all that stuff, do you think you're going to be a more powerful business owner or a less powerful business owner? Which business owner do you think is being the person they need to be? The one who has the lens where everything is, why me? I'm going to be a victim. Poor me. Poor results. Oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. Or is the more powerful business owner the person that's like, oh man, I'm so grateful for that. I can't wait to get back up and learn more lessons. I can't wait to see what gift this is giving me. I can't wait to get through this so I can help other people get through this even faster. That business owner, that person is going to be the one who navigates their business more powerfully. Now, here's what happens. I am a firm believer that you can be successful with both lenses. If you have the lens of poor me, why this, blah, 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 I do believe that if you just don't give up and you constantly change and test and try again, you're courageous, you're tenacious, even though you have the wrong lens, you can find success because you're going to start figuring things out. And I do believe that the person with the more powerful lens will get there faster. But the thing is when you get, and this is the most important part, is when you get to the end goal, watch what happens to both of those people. The person who gets the money, the things they want, the materialistic things, with the lens of victimhood, why me, blah, 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 they will go and find out the things that are still wrong, even though they have everything they wanted 2 years ago. Your happiness is dependent on the lens in which you see the world. Because I can tell you guys right now, when you become a millionaire, when you have money, when you have a nice house, when you have cars, when you have all the things that you think you want, there's always going to be something that you could perceive as wrong. Why? Because nothing is ever 100% perfect. Nothing is ever 100% perfect. So if you have the wrong lens on and you start making the money and you start becoming successful and you start getting all the materialistic things, you know what's going to happen? The lens in which you're using to see the world is going to start finding all the negative. Oh, wow, I have a nice car, but that person has something nicer. Oh, yeah, I have money in the bank, but I could use more because I don't have a second or a third house yet. Oh, yeah, that's really great that I have a mountain bike. I'm just using mountain bike because I can see it right here on my wall, but I have a mountain bike, but it's 2 years old and I need something nicer. Or you start looking at the lens in which you see the world when it comes to relationships. Oh, I have everything that I wanted, but my wife said this one thing to me, or this one thing happened, or something broke in this house that I wanted. I have to go get a pipe fixed now. Oh, it's so awful, poor me. Instead of looking at it and going, wow, I have to go fix the pipe now. I'm just grateful I have a house that that has a pipe broken that I have to go fix, because I could be living, in under the bridge and not have anything. And there's two different lenses in which you can use to see the world, because nothing is 100% perfect. So you have to be very mindful of the lens in which you see the world. And I can tell you right now, one of the best lenses that you can use being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, is the one I call gratefulness. This is the one where no matter what's going on and what's happening in your life, there's always things to be grateful for. And when you fully and truly understand that the down moments, the things that didn't go as planned as you thought, are really giving you a gift and a lesson, and when you really truly understand that, and you live your life by that, and you live in gratefulness and that, those two things right there, if you incorporate that consistently in your life, I'm guaranteeing you that you will be happy no matter what. And again, you have to put it into practice. You have to use it when things are quote unquote tough. You have to get out of your ego. But when you start to become successful, you will find yourself living in greater abundance, more happiness, because of the lens in which you see the world. You start recognizing you have more and more things to be grateful for. The more money you make, the more things that you have, the less stress you have. You just become grateful for that. And then all of a sudden, maybe you get a new car, then you're grateful for that. And then maybe all of a sudden you get a new mountain bike and you're grateful for that. And then all of a sudden you get a new computer and you're grateful for that. And you start to realize that the more and more you make and the more you have, the more and more things that enter your life to be grateful for. Now, if you're broke, you don't have anything, guess what? You still have a ton to be grateful for. There's a lot, because things can always be worse. And you really have to check yourself on the lens in which you see the world. And I can guarantee you right now, one of the reasons why I'm happy 95% of the time. 95% of the time. And that's because of the lens in which I see the world. And one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn in growing a business and being an entrepreneur is to develop that lens, is to start to recognize things aren't happening to me, they're happening for me. These are gifts. And for me, I had to go through a lot of hard things. And obviously those are things that I perceived to be hard. So like being broke, moving in with my in-laws, a lot of that stuff. I lived in a lot of shame, I think, and embarrassment that I was, 30 years old and living with my in-laws. I couldn't even pay for rent, and my friends were all buying houses and having kids, and I didn't have any of that. And I was embarrassed by it. And that was the lens in which I saw the world. Again, I had to change the lens. And you know what happened for the first 2 or 3 years of my business? I made almost no money. Why? Because literally because of how I saw the world. Was not living in gratefulness, was living in shame and embarrassment. But I went to a workshop called Landmark Forum that was the first step to changing that lens. And instead, I could have looked at that scenario and gone, wow, I'm really grateful to have a roof over my head. I'm really grateful to have in-laws who aren't even charging me for rent. I mean, we lived there for 4 years. A lot of people don't have that opportunity. And had I not had that opportunity, I don't know what would have happened. I could have looked at it as grateful of I'm just so lucky that I have a roof over my head and food on the table. I'm so grateful to be able to walk out of the door and not have to worry about being robbed or mugged or being bothered. I lived in a great neighborhood. I could have been grateful for the fact that I even had freedom. I wasn't trapped down by a job. So even though I wasn't really making money, I could still technically kind of wake up when I wanted to, go to bed when I wanted to, go to work when I wanted to, all of that stuff. There was so much for me to be grateful for, but the lens in which I saw the world allowed me to see none of it. And had I not changed that lens and became successful, you know what my life would be like now? It would be like things like, I need more money. I need a better bike. I can't believe that I have to go replace a door on my house. I can't believe that I have to podcast inside of my garage, right? Like all of these things. But because of the way I see the world, the way where my attention is, I'm grateful for all of those things. Man, I'm so grateful that I have a door that I get to go fix. I'm so grateful that I have a garage and an awesome studio and a team member like Matt who comes out here and sets it all up with me. Like, I'm just grateful for all of it. There's so many things to be grateful for. And so, to me, that's why most people will not find happiness when they finally make it, get the money, get the material things, is because the lens in which you see the world allows you to just find the negative versus the positive. So if you can start to look at all the positive, the gifts, the gratefulness, everything in your life through a very positive lens, you know what happens when you finally make it. You start to get the money, you start to get the house and the cars and all the materialistic things or the things you want. And by the way, let me just say this. There's nothing wrong with wanting money. There's nothing wrong with wanting nice things. There's nothing wrong with wanting cars. If that's what you want, then you should go get it. But if you're chasing it to try to find happiness, you're never going to find it, because those things won't bring happiness. The lens in which you see the world is what brings you the happiness. So chase those things, get those things. Those are great motivators. Those are things that can bring happiness in your life, but they don't guarantee happiness. What you really need to do is to look at how you're perceiving the world, what you're defining as negative and positive, because I'm telling you right now, there's always a perspective that you can bring that's going to allow you to just live in happiness, gratefulness, and a better way, which allows you to ultimately be a better, stronger, happier business owner who creates a better culture for your team, who creates a better company, better clients, a better product, all of that stuff. So that's what I'm going to leave you guys with today. Thank you for tuning into this episode. If you have not done so already, I would be so grateful and appreciate any reviews you want to leave on iTunes. And so that obviously helps us get better exposure and bring more people into the podcast and allow us to change more lives. So if you haven't done so already, head over there, do that now. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode of The New Generation Entrepreneur. Take care. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.